What's up, nerds? Welcome to Cool Nerd Show's Worst to First 2016 comic book movies, where we take a look and rank all of the comic book movies from 2016 from worst to first. So stay tuned, sit back as we fly through this list.
Think of the person you love most in your life. Now that person will know what it is to lose someone they love.
Henryk, proszę cię, nie rób tego.
My name isn't Henrik. My name is Magneto.
Oh yeah, time to cap off the X-Men soft reboot trilogy with Apocalypse. First Class was sweet, Days of Future Past was awesome, so this one has to be good, right? Wrong. X-Men Apocalypse had a lot of promise until we saw the titular villain look like Violet Beauregard when she ate the 3-course dinner gum at the end of Willy Wonka. It was all downhill from there. The movie took place in the 80s, which would have been awesome if they gave us any 80s theming whatsoever, but that's kind of forgivable. What's not forgivable is the treatment of the Four Horsemen. Storm is only Storm because Apocalypse gave her strong powers, Psylocke was basically an afterthought, and Magneto holds on to his conviction about as long as a politician does after they get elected. Nothing stops a good Skybeam ending like a stern talking to. It's not all bad. I mean, we saw Weapon X for a second, and if you include a half-naked Hugh Jackman in any movie, it's automatically better in my book. The Quicksilver scene was on par with the one from Days of Future Past, and the New Mutants gave a solid foundation to future movies. I mean, if they do them at all, because this movie tanked pretty hard. Thanks for another X3, Mr. Singer.
Normals is setting on the dryer. People like us, we don't get normal.
Why is it always a knife fight every single time you open your mouth?
Suicide Squad was DC's third addition to its extended universe, and they probably should have let this one cook a little bit longer. The script was written in about 6 weeks, and it showed. The third act falls apart, but I mean, at least they didn't fall back on the Skybeam ending a lot of comic book movies have been doing. Oh, come on! At least the first hour of the movie was awesome. Well, most liked it. Rick Flag was a human exposition machine. Other than that, the characters were well introduced. Leto's Joker was decent, but there wasn't enough of him to truly judge. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't squeal like a 12-year-old girl at a One Direction concert when I saw the Flash capture Captain Boomerang.
No honor among thieves, eh?
But overall, this movie gets worse on multiple viewings. The story was just too weak, and it doesn't hold up to the other two movies in the DCEU. And I don't know what Zuma Class Enchantress was in, but it was kind of distracting and the whole movie just ended with a thud. But David Ayers is directing the sequel, so maybe Suicide Squad 2 will be more cohesive.
You know, outside, you're amazing. But inside, you're ugly.
We all are. We all are! Except for him. He's ugly on the outside, too.
Do you bleed? You will.
Man, this was a divisive movie. You either loved it or you hated it, and there didn't seem to be much in between. Opinions aside, it's hard to deny that Ben Affleck's Batman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman are very promising additions to the DCEU, but that didn't stop the hate this movie got for its dark, somber tones, weird pacing, and forced storyline. Instead of taking the Marvel route and creating a lighthearted superhero film, BVS took a gloomy look into how the world would act if two godlike beings waged war in the middle of a city, and Zack Snyder explored the xenophobia that would accompany such a battle. Some found this interesting, while others hated the serious nature of the film. This movie excelled in its visceral action set pieces where there were any, but with a runtime just short of 3 hours, this movie skimped out on huge battles one would expect from a title like Batman v Superman, and replaced them with expository scenes setting up Bruce as a detective and Clark as a reporter. The climax of the film saw the Trinity face off against Doomsday, which in the end led to Superman's death. At the end of the day, we got a foundation of the DCEU moving forward, which excites some and terrifies others.
You're letting him kill Martha! What does that mean? Why did you say that name?
What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
Marvel's first trip into the multiverse was a trippy one. Doctor Strange tells the origin of Stephen Strange and his journey to become the Sorcerer Supreme. And for such an odd concept to non-comic book readers, Marvel nailed it by making it basically Iron Man 1 with magic instead of technology. And that's not a bad thing. It was a safe, smart play considering the common moviegoer is as familiar with the source material as I am with the touch of a woman. Anyway, the visuals in the film are its selling point. The way they use multiple dimensions as their battlegrounds while not confusing the audience is a real testament to their filmmaking. But it's not without its flaws. Rumors of reshoots to add humor had nerds a little worried, and it was pretty obvious where they overlaid the laughs. The Cloak of Levitation was basically the magic carpet from Aladdin, and it really ruined an emotional moment Strange was having after the death of the Ancient One. And like all Marvel movies, the villain is a complete afterthought, only showing up to initiate conflict and give the protagonist something to do. Basilius is just another in a long line of indistinguishable bad guys who seek the destruction of the world, and is easily tossed aside at the conclusion of the movie. Although, it does set up Baron Mordo for future films, which is a nice touch. Overall, this movie was a good jumping off point for the more fantastical side of the MCU, and we're all excited to see where it takes us.
Fight! Fight like your life depended on it!
Because one day, it may.
Now, if I were a 200-pound sack of assholes named Francis, where would I hide?
Man, who saw this coming? After Ryan Reynolds' portrayal of the Merc with the Mouth in X-Men Origins Wolverine, one would think any studio exec that saw those two names paired up together would throw that script in the trash faster than my dad did with all my homemade birthday cards I made him. This movie came out of nowhere with a shoestring budget that kept getting cut up until a week before production, but the movie didn't seem to suffer. Deadpool was well written with funny, quick, and crude dialogue, with enough action to break up the laughs. Ryan Reynolds nailed his performance as the titular character on a second go-around, probably because they didn't sew his fucking mouth shut. This was everything a fan could want in a Deadpool movie, and it didn't hurt that it made over $700 million. We're all excited to see what this movie can do with a little studio confidence behind it in its sequel.
I'm touching myself tonight.
Sorry, Tony. You know I wouldn't do this if I had any other choice. But he's my friend. So was I.
The final chapter in the Captain America trilogy was about as stuffed as a fat kid on Thanksgiving. But that's not a bad thing in this case. Civil War managed to juggle about a dozen characters throughout the film without losing the audience. They also managed to introduce Black Panther and Spider-Man to the MCU on top of everything else. The Russo brothers just know how to handle Cap. And goddamn if that airport scene wasn't the best 12 minutes of my life. Civil War is considered to be the almost perfect superhero movie, with the only thing really holding it back being its weak villain. But some may say that the real villain was Tony Stark in this film. Or Captain America, I guess, depending on which side you're on. Civil War being the 13th movie of the Marvel Cinematic Universe just goes to show that what Marvel is doing is still working, and they continue to remain on top of the superhero box office, both financially and with its fans.
Captain America.
Mr. Lang?
It's an honor. I'm shaking your hand too long. Wow, this is awesome. Captain America. I know you too. You're great. Jeez. Look, I want to say, I know you know a lot of super people, so thanks for thanking of me.
And that was our list for our worst to first comic book movies of 2016. If you like this video, it would mean a lot to us, so please give a thumbs up. Head on over to our channel, Cool Nerd Show, and subscribe for more videos like this one. And we want to know what your worst to first comic book movies of 2016 are, so please sound off in the comments below, and we will do our best to reply.